These are the top 5 breakout players for the 2022-2023 Premier League season. Hello everybody, I'm Sideline Sedo. Welcome back to the Sideline Sedo YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be looking at the biggest breakout stars from this previous Premier League season. Comment below who was your biggest breakout star. Like the video if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe for more footy news, transfer content, and Premier League news. Let's get into the video. Very quickly, my criteria for breakout star. What do I mean by this? For me, a breakout star is somebody who's played no more than, say, this being their 3rd season in the Premier League and have just taken it up a level. Either it's their 1st season and they've had an impressive debut campaign, or they've been there for a season or 2 and now they're really stepping into the role and really breaking into the first team. So I'm going to start with number 5. My number 5 breakout player in the Premier League this past season was Michael Olise. Michael Olise has now had 2 full seasons with Crystal Palace. In the first season, he had 2 goals, 5 assists. He kind of put his name out there to an extent. He was seen as a good, promising prospect. He was around 19 to 20 at the time. And ultimately, he looked like a player who they could really build with moving forward. But there was obviously still a lot of question marks. How does Eberechi fit into this? How does Wilfred Zaha fit into this? Zaha seems to be leaving, so it seems like they're going to need a new talismanic presence. And Eze had a decent season and was an honorable mention for the inclusion of this list. But I gave it to Michael Olise because Michael Olise had some really incredible increase to his production. So in his first campaign with Crystal Palace, he had 2 goals and 5 assists throughout the season. And in the second campaign, he's got 2 goals still, but he's more than doubled his assist contribution. He's gotten 11. And I wouldn't say that particularly there's been too many new inclusions at Crystal Palace that have, really changed the way they've played to such an extent that, he's, playing with better players offensively. They're going to finish their chances. The likes of Odsonne-Édouard or Mateta, they're nothing crazy, I would say. No offense to them, but Michael Olise really seems like he's stepped up this season, and I've loved watching him play. He had that free kick against Manchester United that, as a Liverpool fan, I absolutely reveled in, and he looks genuinely class. Like, he looks absolutely electric every time he plays. He's got a very good touch. He's very good at controlling the ball. He passes really well, and he's very creative ultimately. He's a very promising player for Crystal Palace and England moving forward. Number 4, speaking of talented young English players, let's get into Rico Lewis. Interesting campaign in the sense that he burned really brightly for a period of time. There was that stretch around after the World Cup where right as they came back, Pep tried the new formation. He was kind of molding his system and reinventing it a little. And Rico Lewis came into the squad. And immediately, he wasn't perfect. There wasn't a crazy amount of goals or assists from him or anything. But his contribution to City, City's won now the Champions League and the Premier League. So they've had a very, very good treble-winning campaign. And Rico Lewis came into the squad and kind of played this new inverted fullback, role in the 3-2-4-1. And he has been kind of, dropped and fallen out of favor of the first team, but that's because John Stones has had such a brilliant campaign and has kind of made that position his own. But I'm of the belief that if Rico Lewis isn't in that squad and he doesn't come in and play that stretch of games and kind of almost help the squad understand what John Stones is supposed to be doing, I don't know if City, make this evolution. Maybe they still win the Premier League, but maybe they don't win the Champions League, or maybe they win the Champions League but not the Prem. Either way, I think he made an absolutely amazing impact to City this season. Hate to say it, but he's a very quality player. City's academy is very good. So when a player like this comes through the ranks, just think about it. Phil Foden, absolutely class. He's like the last big player to really get pushed through the City squad. Obviously, they have other players like Cole Palmer and stuff, but this campaign, Rico Lewis, he's one of, if not the most important breakout stars of this season. Number 3, Matthias Jensen. If you're not following the Premier League week in, week out, some of the lesser known clubs that are more fiscally responsible, let's say, with their investments, the likes of, say, Brighton or Bournemouth or Brentford in this case, they have some very quality players. And a lot of those players are recruited and scouted and developed, and there's a keen eye kept on them. This player very much so teeters on the line of being called a breakout player in the sense that, yes, it's his second season. Yes, he's played no more than, 3 seasons in the Premier League with Brentford or in general, but he is like 26 or 27. But bear with me. Matthias Jensen didn't do anything last season. Christian Eriksen came in. He added a layer of depth to the midfield at Brentford, and Eriksen left to Manchester United, and as a result, there was a Christian Eriksen-sized hole in the midfield. And ultimately, Matthias Jensen, he made that position his own. He came into the squad. He played a little and was rotated last season, but this season, he's got 5 goals and 6 assists, and Brentford nearly made Europe. For a team like Brentford, to have a guy go from, just back up to Christian Eriksen, literally, I think he had a goal and assist last season over 20-odd games. So nothing impressive, relatively negligible stats ultimately over the course of a whole Premier League season. But to go from that to 5 goals and 6 assists as a central midfielder, that is impressive, especially at the age of 27. Brentford's a squad that I really admire with the way that they approach the transfer market and the way that they develop their players. I think Jensen does have a home at Brentford, and I think this season he's proven that he's a quality Premier League player, and ultimately he's somebody that Brentford can rely on moving forward as they seek to, build on the successes of this season and, hopefully contend for Europe next season. So yeah, Matthias Jensen, what an amazing season. He was so fun to watch. So one of my personal favorites on this list. Number 2, the second biggest breakout player of this past Premier League season was Kaoru Mitoma. Mitoma is a player who also falls in that weird kind of too old to be considered a prospect, but an unearthed gem who's just blown up out of nowhere. That's where he fits in this list for me. I do understand that Kaoru Mitoma's style of play isn't particularly perfect in the sense that he's not always going to score, he's not always going to assist, and sometimes, he'll hold on to the ball too long. But he's such a joy to watch. I mean, I remember that one game earlier in the season where he just flicked the ball a couple times over Joe Gomez and slotted it past Alisson, and I was like, damn, this kid's good. And he has had some inconsistent moments, but it's his first season in the Prem. I'm sure he's going to build on it this upcoming campaign. And on top of that, I'm confident that there's going to be a ton of Premier League teams just absolutely looking for this man's signature nonstop because he's quality. He's very, very talented at dribbling. Obviously, everybody knows the joke about Mitoma writing, his doctoral thesis on dribbling or something like that, but no joke. This guy is the real deal. And it's players like this that I like seeing come through in the Premier League that aren't necessarily, obviously it's always fun seeing a young star kind of blossom, and there's been plenty of those this season, but when you see a guy who's just unknown, comes to the league and just, shows out and is actually not half bad and is actually half great maybe, that's what I love seeing in the Premier League, and Kaoru Mitoma is exactly that. So amazing season for Mitoma. Gets a round of applause. And in first place, my number 1 biggest breakout player for this past Premier League season is William Saliba. And I know there might be some people in the comments oh my God, Saliba, he's been on loan with Arsenal for years and no. I know, but this is his first Premier League season. He still is under 23. So as a center back, he isn't perfect. Once again, none of these players I would say are perfect. They still have a season or two to really enter the full kind of stage of perfection. Some of them have really high ceilings too. But William Saliba absolutely revolutionized Arsenal's backline. Arsenal was in tatters defensively towards the second half of the season. They were in tatters the second half of last season. The common thread there is that William Saliba was out at the end of this season. He wasn't even playing for Arsenal at the end of last season. He is a lead by example type of center back in my eyes. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's not the best aerially, but he's physical. He can read the game well. He's tall. And, he doesn't look like clumsy. I love Joel Matip, one of my favorite center backs of all time. But sometimes I watch Joel Matip go on a run, and I'm like, oh my God, Joel, you're going to fall over. And Saliba, I don't get as much of that. He does seem like he has an error or two in him, but I'm sure as next season comes, and then his third season in the Premier League, by the time he's there, he's going to be arguably the best center back in the world, if not one of the top 5, let's say. He's going to be right up in that conversation, though, I personally believe. The reason he has the number 1 spot is just very simply, as he was there, Arsenal's title campaign and their title bid was there. And as he got injured and dropped out of the squad and had to, be set aside, their title campaign just died. Thank you so much for watching the video. Comment below, what do you think of my list? Who's your biggest breakout star? Do you think these players can build on the successes they've had this past season and the 23-24 season, or do you think they're going to fizzle out? Thank you so much for watching once again. Subscribe for more footy content and transfer news. I'm Sideline Sedo. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.